We're good.
As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Permit me to confirm all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Meg Browers,
Here.
Abby D. Molina,
Here.
Forrest Bell,
Here.
Tom Dixon.
Here.
Great, thank you, everybody. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Ellis Ramos,
Here.
Rachel Field,
Here.
Vicky Marsh,
Here. Thank you.
thank you. Tracy McDonald. Thank you. Okay, great. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Mr. Sear. Thank you. And I think we're good there.
Brian, Penny just joined, by the way.
Great. Hi, Penny. Penny, you want to test your mic?
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you, Penny. Good afternoon. This is an open meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. The meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening via video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note the meeting is being recorded. All attendees are participating via video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. Take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. Public encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless we note otherwise. We'll turn to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover ground rules for clear and effective conduct, for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, we'll go down a line of members, inviting each to provide their comments, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or your computer when not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If you wish to engage with conversation with other members, please do so, taking care to identify yourself through the chair. For items with public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names, be acknowledged, and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote will be taken by roll call for this meeting. With that, the meeting has been called to order, and I will look for an action to approve the agenda or any edits or changes. So remember to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
A second. A second.
Thank you, Penny. Vote by roll call. Meg Browers,
Aye.
Abby D. Molina,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Forrest Bell,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. We have minutes from the weeks of November 19th, November 25th, December 3rd, December 17th, and December 23rd. For approval, are there any comments, edits, changes as have been sent through?
Just a quick question through you, Mr. Chair, to Alice.
Yes, Penny?
Do the minutes include the changes that I made or suggested changes?
Yes. So
Thank
the
you.
second batch I sent to the trust on the packet has your edits.
Thank you.
Great. With that, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes of November 19th, 25th, December 3rd, December 17th, and December 23rd. Is there a motion?
So moved. Oh,
Okay, I'm going to give that to Abby with Meg on the second. Vote by roll call. Meg Browers,
Aye.
Abby De Molina.
aye.
Sorry, everybody just shifted. Penny Dye.
Aye.
Forrest Bell.
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Shanta, I saw you came halfway through that. Do you want to hold your vote or?
Yes, I'll hold on this. Thank you.
Okay, and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Note for the record that Chantal has joined the meeting. Public comments. So first, I'll come back to the public comments from the question where Mary had last week. There's a written response in the packet, Mary. For you, in the question, as we had it, was you wanted to understand the difference between the count towards subsidized housing inventory and those that are eligible for safe harbor. And you wanted to understand why some units might count towards the shy, but not towards safe harbor. So, again, it's in writing in the packet, but the answer is units count towards the subsidized housing inventory if they meet long-term affordability criteria, regardless of when they were created. However, safe harbor units must align with the state-approved housing production plan and meet annual production goals to provide temporary protection from Chapter 40B developments. The key difference is shy includes all qualifying affordable units over time, while safe harbor focuses on recent progress, strategic compliance with the housing production plan, and some units might count for shy, but not safe harbor if they were created outside of the HPP timeline or do not meet annual targets. Mary, I see that you're here. Do you?
Yeah, I understand that. Thank you for that.
Okay, great. Are there any other members of the public or members of the board that would like to make comment as a member of the public for something not on the agenda? Ann Kuspa, Housing Nantucket.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ann Kuspa here, Housing Nantucket. Just wanted to let everyone know that we are about to publish the 2025 Covenant max sales price and new income numbers. So as for those of you who don't know, we reset this in January based on interest rates and then the current median family income. So I'm in the process of writing a blog post right now that's going to get into this extensively. So make sure you follow us on social media or check out our newsletter. But I thought this would be a good place to announce it. So in 2025, the max sales price cap is $760,278. And the qualifying income has gone up to $229,650. And so just so you know, that is an increase for the max sales price of about $58,000 and for the qualifying income about $25,000. This is due to the median family income increasing about $20,000 and the interest rates also increased from last year. This year we're using 7.5% for the interest rate as opposed to last year was 7.15%. So even though the interest rate went up, which usually results in a lowered max sales price, because the median family income went up, which was it was a big jump actually, 12%. So that caused a increase in the max sales price. So again, I'll be posting more about that on our blog, but just wanted to let you know.
And thank you very much. Penny, I think we actually were going to hold public questions in public comment.
Even if it's related to something that we were just talking about?
Well, why don't you put your question out there?
Yeah, just Ann didn't mention the asset. So does that stay the same, the asset limitation?
Thank you. Actually, if you don't mind, through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to answer that.
Please, Ann.
Yes, so that increases the asset caps as well. The assets are half of the max sales price. So in that way, it would be unrestricted assets must be less than $380,139. The transaction fee also went up, and that is $3,801 this year.
Great. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Public comments. Closing cost assistance program application. I meant to make a friendly amendment to the agenda, Ellis. These both have the same address on them, 5A Wait Drive, and in the applications, the addresses are different.
Sorry, one was 5A and the other one is 5B. It was like a typo. So I can quickly tell you that David Cunningham, it's 5B, and Miliana Capin, it's 5A.
Okay, great. These are Habitat for Humanity homes. as I understand. Is there any, we'll take the first one listed, Cap'n. Any members have any questions on the applications? Interest in making a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve 5A.
Okay, and do I have that correct, Ellis, that Cap'n is 5A?
Yes, you do.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Actually, so for discussion, Tom, if I may make a friendly amendment to your motion to approve up to $15,000 of closing cost assistance with any overage or any unused funds being returned to the trust.
So moved.
Thank you. A vote by roll call, Abby De Molina,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Chantal Murphy.
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Boris Bell,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Application, closing cost assistance program application for the Cunninghams at 5B Wait Drive. Any questions, comments, or motions on this application?
Mr. Chair, I'll also make a motion to duplicate exactly your words from the previous motion, but substitute 5B.
Great. Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Abby. Any discussion? Vote by roll call, Abby De Molina,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Chantal Murphy. Meg Browers,
Aye.
Boris Bell,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Thank you. And item number 6, Affordable Homes Act seasonal community designation. How does it affect Nantucket? Senator Seer, would you like to jump in here?
Sure.
Awesome. Thanks for being here today. We really appreciate your advocacy and coming to educate us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, for having me, and especially Brian. And I see a whole host of folks who've been really instrumental in the cases that we've been making, both the successes and the work that we have to do on Beacon Hill related to the most pressing issue facing islanders, the most pressing issue facing the entire region, which is a housing crisis that has, existed since I was probably in middle school or high school, but has only gotten worse. And I think as the pandemic and its aftermath in the real estate market really has put this problem on steroids. Nantucket, to its credit, really has done more than any town in the Cape and Islands district, probably more than any town in the Commonwealth. Although Provincetown's catching up. Provincetown's taking a lot of ideas that Nantucket's done and doing a lot here. Ryan, what would be helpful for our conversation today? Do you want me to give sort of an update on where we are with the Affordable Homes Act and seasonal communities? Do you want me to answer questions? How should this work?
I think it would be most helpful to the group and to the public looking back later if you kind of give an overall update of what the Affordable Homes Act meant and how the subset designation seasonal communities will create opportunities. And then
Sure.
That will probably generate questions.
Great. So I think it's
hang on, Penny.
Yeah, just quickly. Sorry, through you, Brian, to Senator Seer. I would like to allow a little bit of time to talk about the transfer fee and what you think happened with that and how we can mitigate that going forward. Thank you.
Sure. There's plenty to talk about that too.
I'm
Go ahead, Julian. Floor is yours.
Great. So I think, as most of you know, Governor Healy signed the Affordable Homes Act into law this past August, and this is a historic authorization of $5.16 billion to spend on housing over the next 5 years. The law includes 49 policy initiatives to address the rising cost of housing due to high demand and really limited supply across Massachusetts. We estimate we need to build about 200,000 housing units in Massachusetts by the end of this decade. So we've got 5 years to go, and a pretty hefty number to reach. So there's a number of policy changes that apply statewide, including accessory dwelling units by right. This is now law. provisions to facilitate the conversion of vacant commercial space to housing units, as well as the sustainable and green housing initiatives. Also contained in the Affordable Homes Act, one of those 49 policy provisions, is what's known as a seasonal community designation and an accompanying policy toolkit that comes with receiving that designation. So the Affordable Homes Act includes policies specifically tailored to Nantucket and towns that are in a similar situation. By seasonal community, right? This is capturing communities that have a fluctuation in our population, who have a real estate market, right? That's really sort of out of whack and out of step with what median income is to afford the median home price. And so in the law, Nantucket, as well as Dukes County, automatically receive this designation, as do all municipalities in Cape Cod that have 35% or greater of their housing units that are occupied seasonally. So effectively, this is Dennis all the way out to Provincetown, and then a number of communities in the Berkshires also meet this qualification. The Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, also known as HLC, has the ability to designate additional communities as seasonal communities, and we expect they will do so, and most communities on Cape Cod, municipalities on Cape Cod, will come into the designation. So if you have a seasonal communities designation, which Nantucket already has, day one, it allows towns to implement certain policies and programs, and these have all been effectively thoughtfully designed and really provided in response to what all of y'all have requested. They've also been built off of what towns like Nantucket have done. So first, a seasonal community may establish a year-round housing trust fund. This is the group we're talking to today. Nantucket led the way in having a year-round housing trust fund. Provincetown also has one of these funds. But as you all well know, right, the fund is sort of the key, the key fiscal and entity in the municipality that can get involved with subsidizing below market housing, right? So housing that's above, capital A affordable housing, but in that middle. So this is really built off of what Nantucket had done via home rule petition, what Provincetown had done via home rule petition. Now all seasonal communities, if you have this designation, you can have a year-round housing trust like Nantucket does without going through the home rule process. Nantucket's housing trust still remains on the books. I think in the years ahead, we'll have to figure out sort of how do we sort of reconcile the Nantucket and Provincetown trusts with the broader seasonal communities trust. But that's a technical sort of issue. Seasonal communities may also acquire year-round housing occupancy deed restrictions. These are the year-round housing deed restrictions that Nantucket, that other communities have been requesting. So this is going to allow us to both ensure that any new build housing that we're building through local or state resources that's below market, or housing that we're purchasing to sort of preserve, allowing municipalities to buy that year-round housing deed restriction. This is really, if we look at the model that's worked really well in the Colorado ski towns, which now has a pretty robust inventory of homes that are protected from the second home market, the investor market. They use these year-round deed restrictions. You're now allowed to do it. Seasonal communities may also acquire and develop housing units for municipal employees, public employees, as well as artists and creative workers. This is something that Nantucket had explicitly requested from us. Edgartown had been requesting this ability as well. So without this in law, effectively, the town was essentially prohibited from providing long-term housing. You could provide seasonal housing, but providing long-term housing for employees, that is now possible for Nantucket because of the seasonal communities designation. Seasonal communities are also able to increase their residential property tax exemption. Currently, that exemption threshold goes up to 35%. Seasonal communities now can go up to a 50% residential property tax exemption. We think this tool is going to be, really useful in sort of coming years especially as we see valuations continue to go up at a pretty hefty level. So this is about keeping local people in their homes, right? Who may be land rich, but certainly cash poor. There is also a requirement that a municipality who's a seasonal community conduct a biannual housing needs assessment to provide more accurate forecasting and planning. I believe Nantucket's sort of already done this. You folks are ahead of the curve here. So that won't be too hefty of a requirement. Seasonal communities do have several other requirements. If you're a seasonal community, seasonal communities must adopt a bylaw or an ordinance that encourages or allows tiny home construction, as well as the construction of undersized lots. That's also paired with a statewide provision around merger lots, so long as those units are dedicated for year-round housing. So these are pretty small zoning changes that a number of communities have been working on. From a Nantucket perspective, I'm not sure if it, much like the ADU conversation, whether or not it actually pencils out to sort of build ADUs or to be building tiny homes. Sometimes that has worked, sometimes that's not, but those are going to be requirements of seasonal communities. The Affordable Homes Act also creates a Seasonal Communities Advisory Council, and the purpose of this council is to provide recommendations, advice, and guidance to the state and to the legislature on what else we need to be doing for seasonal communities. There will be, this group has actually met. Nantucket has several representatives on the Seasonal Communities Advisory Council. We're working actually to appoint a few more. But this is really the group that is, one, going to sort of advise the path forward, and then two, provide advice and counsel to HLC as they draft regulations to implement all these sections. You know, the next steps here, right, are for HLC to issue guidance and regulations. We've asked them to prioritize the year-round housing trust. Again, this is not, Nantucket does not need one of these, but if you are Chatham or Truro, or Orleans, right, you've been clamoring for, you know, home rule petitions to establish your own year-round housing trust. We're going to do that in regulations. We also need HLC to promulgate regulations around the municipal workforce and several other pieces. So that's going to be the first chunk of work for this advisory council. Effectively, what this does is this provides many, if not all, the tools that our communities have been requesting from a policy perspective around what we need to be doing to preserve year-round housing. You know, effectively the situation that we're in, certainly on the island and across the region, is that we're going to have to get into the business of subsidizing housing for most all year-round working people in our communities who don't yet own a home or going to inherit a home. That is tremendously costly. So the Seasonal Communities and the Affordable Homes Act takes care of the policy piece. Like, now you can do it. The question really remains, how do we pay for it, right? Where does the revenue, where does that revenue source come from? I very clearly see that, one very strong revenue source for this should be a local option transfer fee. Effectively, this is a mitigation fee, particularly, if you look at the proportion of real estate transactions on the island. These are, the vast majority of them are second, third, fourth home purchases, are investor properties. Transfer fees are actually quite common in a number of other states, both red and blue. They're used in dozens of cities across the country as well. Nantucket, to its credit, has been filing, I think we've been filing a home rule petition for this for a decade. You've been in good company. You've been joined by a number of other communities in the Outer and Lower Cape, including Provincetown, Truro, Wellfleet, Chatham, the city of Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, Amherst, Lexington, have all chimed in with home rule petitions. I think that a local option transfer fee was not successful in the Affordable Homes Act, although we had a very significant win in having the governor propose it. My read of this is this fell out of the bill as much to do with some politics as it had to do with the policy idea. And I think we have some more work to do to really make the case for this local option transfer fee. I have made this my top priority. I made it my top priority last session to make to really move forward on housing and have a transfer fee and have these policies. The fact that the Affordable Homes Act contains this seasonal communities designation is I think really reflective of that. When this bill was reconciled, the last day of session or formal sessions on July 31st, or really on August 1st, like 5 in the morning, this was one of the top pieces that made it in. A lot of the other policy pieces fell out of that negotiation. Actually, my colleague Will Brownsberger, when he was leading the negotiations for the Senate, I remember like, you know, bleary-eyed at like 5:30 in the morning, looking down at his notes. And the first little note he had scribbled for policy items that had made it in the bill were seasonal communities. And that's reflective of, I think, the real effort and I think real success that we had made, folks from the island as well as Martha's Vineyard and on the Cape, in really making the case that we have a unique situation and that you know, we're going to need a unique set of policies and a revenue source to address it. So it's a very significant, very big deal that this got done, and this was included in the Affordable Homes Act. We have work to do to make the case for a transfer fee, although I'm more optimistic about a transfer fee that would apply perhaps just to seasonal communities or to apply to Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, and certain communities on the Cape, just given the sort of unique facets of our real estate market. So all of y'all have been really instrumental in the successes we've had. You know, Brian, you came to the State House multiple times. I see so many people in here who've really participated and been part of lending their voice, and we're gonna have to keep that up in this coming session. So, you know, as far as from a policy perspective, we can take a really big, strong victory lap in what we've been able to deliver. And then I think we need to continue to work on finding revenue and a revenue source via transfer fee, certainly other revenue sources as well, whether it be municipally through, you know, room occupancy revenues, stabilization funds. The town's already done. Nantucket, you guys have already done most of this. A number of other towns on the Cape, you know, we're urging to do. So that's the update. I'm glad to take questions. You know, certainly appreciate all of your time and attention and work on this most critical issue. And again, Nantucket's been doing the most on a really, really tough issue. So I'm grateful for your partnership in really tackling this issue head on and not punting it.
We're trying. So we appreciate your help in Boston. Thank you. Thank you for coming today. I know that Penny, I'm going to turn over to Penny, and I know I have my own questions. I'm sure we'll have a few more. So Penny, to you.
All right, I'm going to talk fast. If you guys hear a noise, my smoke detector's been going off all day. So
oh no.
I talk quickly. A couple of things. Is it fair to say, Senator Sear, that the only sort of significant or organized opposition has been from the realtor industry, Mass Association of Realtors?
Yes, the realtor industry and sort of a broader subset of, you know, that sort of sector.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm a realtor, and often,
we love it.
Yeah, the times that I've testified, I would often start by saying, I am a realtor, I have been for 40 years, but that the association isn't speaking for me or for this community. The Nantucket real estate community has been behind this from the beginning. And I would never deign to go into some other community and tell them what to do. So I very much like your idea about the seasonal communities designation and perhaps looking at where the commonalities are with that. I mean, we have an average home price over 4.5 million right now, and this is not going the other direction. That's one comment. The second sort of, I don't know if it's a question or a statement, but I worry about people who have owned for 30, 40, 50 years, who are sort of choosing to move to places maybe with better medical services or accessibility or a lower cost of living. And what's going to happen to those houses? I mean, what's going to happen unless, and so the question is, does the Affordable Homes Act give us some tools besides, I guess we have the, you know, the deed restriction is really, that's it, right?
An excellent question, Penny, and that's exactly the tool you need.
Thank you.
So, you know, I don't think we can, you know, we're quite literally on an island, right? Or a peninsula, right? And so much of, you know, our land is preserved and conservation, right? We can't necessarily just like build our way completely out of the problem. And so really this year-round deed restriction and figuring out a program by which the town can purchase those year-round deed, purchase a year-round deed restriction on an existing home when it either hits the market. Also having programs where people can, you know, willingly sort of put their home under a year-round deed restriction as well, as sort of a gift. You know, I know scores of people who are in that very, you know, situation. But that's what the year-round deed restriction is designed to do, is to help us preserve existing year-round housing. Yes, we need to build more year-round housing. We also need to be preserving the year-round housing we have. You do that via by putting a year-round deed restriction, you effectively create below market housing, right? Because the value, our homes are being valued essentially for what they are worth in those busiest summer nights and summer weeks. So that's what it's designed to do. I think on transfer fee, you folks have been amazing, and I think particularly for our realtor friends, really continuing to push the broader association on the Cape and Islands on this. And even the statewide folks in really causing some good trouble. You know, to their credit, Cape and Islands Realtors Association has partnered with us on a number of sort of housing pieces. The national real estate folks just have a position against transfer fees. But broadly, this is not a new policy initiative. This is something broadly that's in use in a whole host of municipalities and entities and cities and states across the United States, you know, kind of across the political spectrum. So we really just think it's something that makes sense. I think what we do have to, you know, what I'm really keen on is figuring out ways for, you know, to bring people to the island to really understand the issue. I think also as well, you know, I'm really keen on saying, all right, how can we actually go look at, you know, basically the model, what we're trying to replicate is in Vail and Aspen, Colorado. You know, do we need to bring some legislators on a trip to sort of see how this works? But I'm really trying to make the case that whatever happens sort of statewide, what we're up against on Nantucket, and then coming on Martha's Vineyard, and then coming to the Cape, particularly the Outer Cape where I live, this is almost insurmountable if we don't have significant revenue sources, and frankly, several revenue sources to address this. What a transfer fee would bring in. Well, we know how successful a transfer fee can be because we have one related to the land bank. And so I think continuing to make that case, we got really close. I got really, really close to getting this done in the Senate. I think I feel optimistic going into the session. I don't feel beaten down. I'm coming back on it.
Okay. Just one other follow-up. It's
of course.
A quick comment. This community lacked I've been here 50 years now, and in the first 30 or more, there was not political leadership on housing. And it makes me sad because I just feel like there were so many opportunities in those early years that were not taken. That being said, the bright spot is one reason Nantucket has been able to do so well in the context of the rest of the state is we had to. We're an island, right? Surrounded by water. And our community stepped up to back financial, warrant articles that would help us do what we're doing. So the whole community is behind it. But I also can tell you there's a feeling here with a lot of the recent construction that we definitely should not be focused on building our way out of this because it's going to change the very character of the island, and it's not an end solution. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. And I would really talk about the year-round deed restriction piece and that as being, I think, part of the solution. You know, we're in such a hole, frankly, that there's not a silver bullet here, right? We're going to need to build. We're going to need to preserve. We need a transfer fee. We need other revenue sources. And I'm really grateful for the political leadership that we've had on the island. I mean, I feel the same way. I sure as hell wish we were addressing this, 20 years ago when I was in high school and middle school. But I do see this. I see on Nantucket, the problem has gotten so acute and bad. There's a consensus on it. I see it in Provincetown now, right? Where 10 years ago, there's a lot of skepticism now. Like anything about housing passes town meeting overwhelmingly. And I think what we're trying to do is to give Nantucket and the Provincetowns of the world all the tools they need, and then really to try to get ahead of this elsewhere, right? There's a very clear pattern when prices are here on Nantucket, they're here on several number of years later on Martha's Vineyard, they're there, then we can predict this. So I'm certainly grateful to my friends on the island for all your leadership.
Senator, we have a handful more questions.
Sure.
I do want to follow up on the deed restriction and one other quick questions. On the deed restriction, our planning board is effectively implementing deed restrictions now through special permit for future projects. When is the trust, when do you see the trust being able to implement deed restrictions from HLC?
So Nantucket already has a trust. You already have a year-round housing trust, unlike only Providence Center and you have one of these. I would argue you could implement a year-round deed restriction today with your council. We are hoping that HLC will put out guidance and regulations on this, on the year-round deed restrictions in the next 6 months. So, I'm hoping this is, I'd argue Nantucket would probably do it now because you have the vehicle you have your trust vehicle already. But my hope is this is something we have some real clarity on in the next 6 months.
Okay, great. Forrest, I apologize. I'm going to just come to Megan real quick because I think she wants to respond to that comment, and then I'm going to come to Forrest, Ann, and Tom. Megan?
Thank you. I just had a quick question about the year-round housing trust. So procedurally, the Affordable Housing Trust is authorized to function in a dual role. Is that correct? Or do we need to formalize that, kind of like how we have the select board and county commissioners where they're one and the same, but they're technically two different distinct entities?
So I think in the case of Nantucket and Provincetown, we're going to have to figure out, you already have a trust, right, that exists that we put into special act. And I think what we'll want to do is to look and see when the draft regulations come out from HLC that spell out what this housing trust looks like. By the way, it's going to probably closely resemble the Nantucket statute and the Provincetown statute, right, because we borrowed from it. And then we'll have to make a decision, with all of you about whether or not you want to adopt, whether you want to sort of adopt the year-round housing trust that's enabled through seasonal communities, or you just want to stick to the existing trust that you have. So I don't have a good answer to that yet, if that makes sense. But what was the exact question? I'm sorry.
So just if we'll have to establish a separate year-round housing trust or just formalize our existing affordable housing trust to serve in a dual capacity, or are they different, or are they the same? Like, how does that function? I just want to make sure we're, I'm in the details. I want to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and following the process correctly.
So the housing trust, the regulatory housing trust that'll be released from HLC will allow communities to sort of jointly operate your affordable housing trust, which is already established in Mass General Law, and implement it sort of simultaneously with your year-round housing trust. That'll be enabled through the seasonal communities regulations. What I don't know, I'm not in the weeds enough with your authorizing statute for your existing trust that's meeting today. So we'd have to take a look at that. Why don't we take a look once the draft regulations come out from HLC? Why don't we really take a look at this and review the authorizing special act statute that establishes the Nantucket Trust and figure this out? We'd essentially want to enable whatever y'all want to do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Julian. Forrest?
Thanks, Brian. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Senator Sear, for spearheading this effort. And I just have a real quick question. You mentioned that the Affordable Homes Act applies exclusively to municipal employees and members of the artistic community.
Yep.
Would it ever be expanded to include other professions? I'm thinking chiefly employees of local nonprofits, per se.
This is a great question. And this is what we'd hope would be raised through the Seasonal Communities Advisory Council. So when you look at designating certain units of housing for a specific population, it has to meet certain criteria under the Fair Housing Act. What we've essentially done is enumerated public employees in these communities as meeting that special criteria. We also have enumerated artists and people involved in creative industries, which would encompass a number of nonprofits in that criteria. So I would suggest that would be a question to really flesh out and figure out in that seasonal communities advisory, council. The biggest the most immediate hurdle has been communities that a town is basically prohibited from providing a benefit from one employee that they don't provide to the other, which in this case would be like housing. And so that's why we had to sort of take the statutory action. But that's exactly for us the kind of thing that should be sort of discussed and fleshed out and looked at in as sort of other ideas that we need to encompass in seasonal communities. Because my intention of this is this is really the start of a whole policy framework for communities like ours. I don't know if you followed the gateway cities model, but that applies to certain mid-sized sort of post-industrial cities in Massachusetts that meet certain criteria and are struggling in certain ways. They have a whole kind of bevy of policies that apply to them, and I think the intention is to create a sort of similar model for seasonal communities. So let's raise that in the council. It's a great question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Forrest.
Thanks.
Thanks, Julian. Tom?
Yeah, good afternoon, Senator. Good to see you. Hey, I just want to step back for a second and just talk about a little bit about how this got here, and the work that got put into it. So when I was working for Rep. Fernandez, now Senator Fernandez, in 2018, the senator and rep held a series of many meetings, I'd say several dozen, with islanders to talk about how outside of 40B and et cetera, that legislative solutions, statutes, et cetera, could be created to help affordable housing. And that came into a bill that coalesced that the senator filed around items that ultimately made it into the seasonal communities. And so these ideas have been percolating for a while, and it's just a really good example of like something that starts grassroots and in the district through need and also the absolute housing crisis that we have here that eventually got put into a statewide, Commonwealth-wide bill, and then with the seasonal communities designation to apply to Nantucket and the Vineyard and other communities. So it really just as working for the office and working very closely with Senator Sear and his staff and Rep. Fernandez shepherding this through. It was a long time coming, but it's just some really good work and sticking on it for 6 years to get it. So I just wanted to thank you for all your work on that over the years.
Thanks, Tom. That I really appreciate that. And look, I'm living this too, right? I'm living our housing crisis, as someone who rents in Provincetown. And really I see how our community's eroding, right? Of what makes Nantucket, the Vineyard, the Outer Cape, right? And the whole region like a special place, isn't just our natural beauty or the allure of our summer attractions, right? But the people who make a life here year round. And I'm really proud of what we were able to get done here. Like we got to get the transfer fee done, and we're going to get it done. But these are pretty meaningful, significant tools that are really trying to meet the moment, and many of them, borrowed from what you folks were able to pioneer in Nantucket. So I'm very grateful and excited and very eager to get some of these pieces that are outstanding done.
Thank you, Senator. I'm going to come to Ann Kuspa, Housing Nantucket.
Hello, Senator Sear, nice to see you. Good to hear all of this. So thank you for advocating for us. I was curious because the way I understand it, Provincetown has a year-round rental housing trust. So this is back to that affordable year-round, like, why did they choose to spin it off and be so specific about that? I know they also do affordable home ownership stuff. So is that I didn't know if that was kind of combined with what you were saying earlier with Megan, or if you could give some insight on that.
So the year-round housing trust that'll be enabled by the Affordable Homes Act will be broadly should be pretty similar to what Nantucket has, right? Where the year-round housing trust can both can provide sort of a myriad of subsidies, whether it's for new development, for housing preservation, lease to local programs, you know, other sort of initiatives. Provincetown has several vehicles. There's a year-round rental housing trust. They've also used their affordable housing trust. They also have free cash where they've dedicated. They actually have a pretty exciting project. They are just moving forward with it, where it's a development of, I think it's like a 43 unit development on the old police station. The old police station is located, where it's basically going to be sort of homes for purchase on a sliding scale based on income, with about $4 or $5 million in town subsidy. Pretty cool stuff, right? So it would be, you know, for that kind of middle income, you know, housing for home ownership. So they're using a number of tools for our purposes today. You know, basically we're looking at what's going to be the new sort of template year-round housing trust that's put out for HLC and for Nantucket. Y'all have to decide, all right, do we want to stick with the trust we've got? Do we want to adopt this new trust? and we'll basically figure that out once we see it. Provincetown's, of course, going to have the same conversation. But you know, and I would really defer to the good folks in P-Town around how exactly they're doing it. The town manager, Alex Morris, assistant town manager, Jen Riviello, Austin Miller, who's the select board chair and who chairs their year-round housing trust, the rental trust rather, are great resources. And I would talk to them about the specifics. And I think cross-pollination is really, really good. But for our purposes in this meeting and what's going forward with the seasonal communities, your choice is basically, do you keep the trust you've got? Or do you adopt HLC's new regulatory trust? I think we wait and see to see what it looks like, if that makes sense.
Because just a comment from my perspective, it does seem like the levels of affordability should be maintained as different tiers, and then a top tier of year-round with no income restrictions around it. So that's would be a concern.
Yeah, what one of the other pieces that HLC is going to have to define in regulations is what we consider as sort of attainable housing. So much of our housing law, right, is predicated on what's considered affordable, or I call kind of capital A affordable housing, right? And most all the subsidies and programs that we have, you know, go to people who make, you know, at a minimum sort of below 80% AMI. You know, these tax credits work best when you do 60% or 30% AMI. There's really nothing, you know, that we have for people who make above their median income. And we're now in the position, certainly in Nantucket and in Provincetown as well, you know, having to figure out how do we subsidize housing for people across the income spectrum, so that the attainable housing definition that HLC puts out, that's going to be really crucial to watch and to provide feedback on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Penny, back to you.
Thank you. So just very quickly, when Secretary Augustus was here of HLC, a couple of things that we talked to him about were the challenges of the municipal procurement laws in terms of creating affordable housing. Our select board chair recently said anything that the town or a municipality does costs 30 to 35% more. And that's not, we have to do something about that because it's not right. I'm not expecting you to solve this. I'm just throwing it out there. And then the second thing we talked to him about a lot was, I'm the chair of the Housing Authority right now, and the cost of insurance, if you can even get it, it's just crippling. So is there anything coming that might help alleviate the insurance costs for affordable housing? Thank you.
So we're taking a look at the insurance issue, actually, twofold. One, in the context of coastal resilience, we've noticed that if you look at insurance coverage that's being dropped, we are one of the regions in the country that is actually having the highest rate of insurance being dropped, homeowners insurance, whatever, being dropped. Part of the challenge in cost has been the increase in valuations, right? So properties increased, what, 160 something percent on Nantucket in the last like 5, 6, 7 years.
For the pandemic, it was over 45% increase.
Okay, so that's going to be also reflected in your valuations, right? For insurance, like you didn't do anything, but because the home was worth a lot more, the insurance is going to be a lot more hefty. But we are sort of taking a look at the coastal resilience piece of that. I think something we're trying to understand a little better about how we can assist. I also think these are ideas that should be brought before the Seasonal Communities Advisory Council, right? Being like, all right, how do we figure out procurement law? Also looking at, okay, if the town pursues sort of a model like Provincetown did recently, right, with this development that's developed privately that has some level of subsidy from the town to incentivize, to basically sort of buy these year-round, deed restricted units effectively. You're not having to go through sort of public procurement because it's not a public project, but there is public subsidy. So that's one way to look at it. The governor had filed a municipal empowerment bill that included some streamlining of the procurement issues. And again, I think these procurement issues are something that should be brought to, the Seasonal Communities Advisory Council. The other factor too is just finding publicly certified sort of contractors and builders to do work on the island is tough in itself. So this is a sort of another topic that really should be on the table. We couldn't get to everything in seasonal communities, but the real intent of this council is having a venue to, figure out other things we need to do. And I'd really encourage, any and all of you to, listen in on that council's work, and to participate. We only know what we know, and I think hearing about these challenges and issues is like very helpful.
I just want to mention lastly, that Megan Trudell is our representative on the
Yes.
council. Thank you, Megan, for doing that.
You beat me to that, Penny, that our senior planner, Megan, if anybody didn't know, is on the council. So if we can communicate with her, send questions, make sure they make it to the table.
Absolutely. I would love that to just, gather and bring things forward when we start meeting.
Any more today for the senator and his team? Seeing none at the moment. Again, Senator, thank you so much for coming today and sharing with us.
Thank you. Of course.
And, yeah, the continued work, and we're here as a resource. So please let us know what we can do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm planning to bring some colleagues to the island at some point, maybe when things get a little warmer. And I think we're going to file a number of different strategies on home rules for transfer fee. And I think just really kind of making the case. I think sometimes people have this perception of what the island may be or what the region may be, and not really understand the acuity of the need that we have. And so, that's going to be our strategy. This remains my highest priority, and I'm going to keep at it till we get it done. So really grateful for all your partnership and great work.
Thank you very much. Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to close by saying, Senator, you have a terrific staff. Was emailing with them about home rule petitions this morning, and they're all responsive as always. So appreciate Michael, Kathleen, Meg, et cetera.
Thanks, Tom. You're only as good in this work as your staff. And Nantucket does that. Fun fact, Nantucket has more home rules than any other municipality in Massachusetts.
Vicky knows.
And we get most
nice
of them
work,
done.
Vicky.
Not all, but most.
Hey, Tracy, good work.
No, I also wanted to say that I really appreciate all of your work. You have really helped us get through a number of bills in the last session, which was very difficult and challenging. And your staff was very patient with us in constantly keeping in communication. So I do appreciate all of the hard work. And I look forward to, working with you and trying to get some of these items through for the seasonal communities, because especially trying to draft perhaps or adjust, revise our year-round housing trust. I think that will be interesting to see what EOHLC does. So again, thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you. All right, enjoy your afternoon. Take care.
Thank you. On my agenda. Okay, on to item number 7, other business. Next meeting, January 21st at 12:30. Anyone have any other business? No. Seeing none, we'll move on to board comments. Item 8. Open the floor for any members of the board that have board comments not on the agenda. Seeing none, close board comments. And then item 9, I'll look for a motion to adjourn regular session, not to return to regular session for the purpose of moving to executive session. Where open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the Affordable Housing Trust. Is anyone interested in making that motion?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Shanta. Sorry, everybody moved around. Let me find the order. Vote by roll call. Shanta Murphy,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Forrest Bell,
Aye.
Abby De Molina,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan tonight.
Aye.
Tom, did I skip you?
Yeah.
Tom Dixon is an aye. Thanks all.